Hello there again. My name is Matthew. I am a customer success manager with BIM Track. It's my job to do essentially what we're doing here today. I want to make sure that the startup process, the configuration of your settings, the aspect of getting BIM Track into the hands of your subcontractors is as easy and as seamless as possible. So I can see that we have some people out there who are just getting started with BIM Track, some with very minimal experience and some experienced veterans. Great. It's pretty well mixed across the board. So we're going to start from the basics, from day one. And the first thing we're going to need to do when we get involved with BIM Track is create our BIM Track account and a BIM Track hub. A hub is where our projects and where we as users live. So we will need to sign up for BIM Track. This will be the same process whether we are a hub admin, a hub guest, a project admin, or a project guest. This process is very easy. Fill out your name, your email address, your company, job title, put in your password, and you sign up for free. Now, I'm not going to go through this process, and I know the majority of you have already done this, but as soon as you say sign up for free, you will be prompted to give your BIM Track hub a name, and that screen looks just like this. Your hub, as I said, is where your projects and users live. We sometimes see hubs being named after a specific project that we are going to be piloting BIM Track on, or our first maiden project. A hub should be named after a district of your company if there are multiple offices. It should be named after the company itself. Think of it as, like I said, where we as users live. So this is more of a larger scale type of location. It's the headquarters. Once your hub exists, you will see this page right here. Great, you are now the proud owner of your BIM Track hub. Perfect. As people get invited into your hub, they will go through that account creation process. And the first thing we should all do once our account is created is head to our profile page. Your profile page is where we see all of that information that we had put in when we had created the account. But what we didn't see there, and what is arguably one of the most important facts or aspects of BIM Track, is the time zone. I would like you, and I would like everybody you invite to your hub and place on a project to update your time zone. This is critically important for the metrics of the projects we're going to be creating. It is even more important if we are working with users from other time zones, different countries, different continents, whatever the situation is. Updating that time zone is incredibly important. On the right side of your profile page are your notification settings. By default, out of the box, these settings are very nice, but you may want to customize them a little bit. We don't want to be sending you too many emails. We don't want our users feeling overwhelmed. So I highly recommend setting some of these notification settings to the daily option. Not too many people know that this option is in here, that these settings are here for us to configure. So we go through that process, all about when issues are commented on, when objects are attached to an issue. Make sure when you make a modification that you hit the save button. So a little tip right there. Perfect. You created your BIM Track account. You created your hub, and oh gosh, excuse me. You've modified your profile. Just below your profile page are the integrations where we can download the plugins for BIM Track. Very straightforward. Click on the Autodesk installer right there. It'll download the plugin for Revit, Navisworks, and the supported AutoCAD flavors. For our Tekla users, it's right there. For Solibri, everything we need to know about BIM Track in the authoring or coordination environments is right here. So let's head back to this projects page. When you first created your hub, there were no projects. If you have already created a project, great, you'll see a number of projects right there. Let's say we're starting a new project today. The first thing I need to do is get the outside parties into my hub. So there are a few ways we can do that, and I just need to grab something from my other screen. It's right here. Perfect. We simply go to the hub settings, and we need to add users. It's as simple as that. We put in our individual's email address right here. We define their role in the hub, and then we place them on a project if we have not done so yet. Now, this is a manual process to invite a single individual. We were here today to talk about a little bit of, tips and tricks and some best practices. Let's efficiently add the project team to our BIM Track hub. And we do that from the import users option. And here you can enter the email address separated by a space, a tab, a semicolon, or one email per line. So if I quickly just pull this email over right here that I sent out to my project team this morning, it says BIM Track on next project. Here are, oops, I don't want to actually reply to that. Here are all of the users contributing to this project. So I just need to copy. I could have done this from an email. I could have done it from an Excel sheet. I paste them all right there. Perfect. And I, get out of here, import them. And when I click import, so these are all people who've already been invited, spoiler, it sends them an invitation to the hub and to the project. Or sorry, to the hub. We haven't placed them on the project yet. We are able to keep an eye on the people we've invited. So if we see a user in orange right here, it means that this is an inactive account. Charles here has not created his BIM Track account yet. We can send him an invite reminder right there. Perfect. So we've sent all of those users an email that says you've been invited to the BIM Track hub or to your hub. Please create your account. Let's get started tracking issues. Perfect. We'll come back and see those users later. We need to add our project so those users have somewhere to go. Again, I'd like to remind you guys that if you have any questions at any point in time, you can type it into the chat portion of the Zoom meeting. We're going to answer those questions. I've got Asiat and JC from the customer success team online answering questions there. We're going to do some live Q&A at the end too. I'll take any of your guys' questions and read them out. Take it from there. So you may have already created an existing project. You may already have a project existing, you may not. Let's imagine we have no projects. We are about to add our first project. We need to give this project a name. And this is going to be, I'm going to do another car dealership. It's the models we have. And if it is our first project, we can use the BIM Track template. If we had created a template from our previous project, we can select that right here. So I have a template. And I'm going to show us how to create a template, of course, and what gets transferred. We're going to see what comes out of the template, and we're going to do some workflow stuff with this in a second. But I want to create this project. I'm just going to put in there we go. Perfect. Once the project is created, we are immediately taken to the project settings page. While we're here, let's define our settings. So the first thing I'd like to do is talk about the attributes. Attributes are incredibly important. This is the metadata that gets assigned to the issue, typically during its creation process, but then of course is modifiable at any given time. So in my template that I used to create this project, my zones were already created for me. And in my case, that works because it's the same project I'm recreating. In your working example, you may want to rename some of your zones here, and that's very easy. You just click the little pencil and rename it. A zone can be many things. It can be the levels of a project, the level of a 40-story building. It could be the buildings of a college campus. These zones are going to be very project dependent. So it's up to you as to how you would like to name them. Now, depending on how invested you are within that project itself, how we want to be labeling those issues will again affect how we name those zones. If we have a premium BIM Track account, we have access to custom attributes, which we could use to subdivide zones. As an example, we could call that attribute levels, and we can have the levels within a zone. So a little food for thought there. Our next attribute is phase. Again, phases are subjective to the project. We can call them things such as construction phase, coordination, demolition, design, review. We may call it phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, depending on the phases of that project, which are typically discussed in a project kickoff, which are oftentimes laid out within a BIM execution plan. That's not the first time or last time we're going to talk about a BIM execution plan today. Then we have the status attribute. Now, this is what the status tab or your status attributes will look like out of the box. And we see the confidentiality column right here. We're going to come back and talk about what that confidentiality column is if we're not familiar with it. And I'm going to propose a slightly different workflow in the status than what we see right here, right now. As you can see, we've got opened issues, in progress, closed issues, reopened. We're going to tweak this a little bit, but it's pretty straightforward. Then we have the types of issues on the project. Now, these can be, again, as granular as you'd like, or they can be more generic. I like to get very specific with what it is I'm looking at when I'm creating an issue. A clash versus a code violation versus a generic issue. As you can see here, I have modeling error. So if maybe a piece of structural steel was not modeled long enough, it was just somebody didn't drag that beam where it needed to go. It's just a modeling error. I want to be able to quantify how many of each type of issue is in my project. So again, I like to be very specific with that. Disciplines. There is no color column. And that's because we can apply multiple disciplines to an issue, because if I have a piece of structural steel clashing with a piece of mechanical ductwork, of course, there are two disciplines involved. You will notice out of the box, there is one structured discipline. I feel that this is too generic, so I like to do this. Let's just copy that real quick. We'll say steel. Great, I'll add a new value and add concrete here. Perfect. Now I can specify whether this issue is between structural steel or structural concrete and another trade. Next, we get to priority. And again, out of the box, you will have low, medium, high, and critical. They will be color-coded as such. And usually we discuss how an issue is labeled in a BIM execution plan prior to its creation process. When we start getting outside teams involved, when they have the ability of creating issues, they may kind of think to themselves, is this a medium or high priority issue? We have a variety of ways we can help kind of lead them into knowing that information. Maybe a critical issue is something that impacts the project that I would want resolved in one day. Perhaps it involves more than 2 teams. Oops. So I'm going to put that into the name of my critical attribute. Maybe my high priority issues are issues that can wait 2 to 3 days. Or maybe a high priority issue just involves 2 teams. Now, I won't go through the rest of these attributes and filling all of that out, but you see the gist here is, are we going by a impact on the project vis-a-vis the number of days? Are we going by the complication of how many teams or individuals are involved? We can start thinking about severity along those lines instead of just, is it medium? Is it high priority? Is everything someone creating critical? This is putting guidelines into place. Think about that. Great. I mentioned before, we have custom attributes available to us on our premium plans. This is where we can add another attribute and name it whatever we'd like. So I have the option to create custom value attributes or predefined. So as I mentioned before, maybe I'd like to add in a level attribute. And then I have level 1 of building A, I have level 2, and so on. A custom value could be something like cost. Now I don't have to support or supply my users with that selectable range. They're able to input any numerical value they'd like in that field. So this is how we set up the attributes somewhat. I did say we wanted to touch back on the statuses. There's a few things I need to mention here. Before we configure our statuses, I want to talk about the teams and users, because our project is almost set up and almost ready for having people come in and get started. That's okay. We can bring those users onto the project, and we want to make sure that they're getting placed on the appropriate team. So when I just created this project and I used my webinar template, all of these teams were pulled across and created here on this project as well. So I have the architectural team, the BIM Track team, the client company, my fire protection, mechanical, and structural. These are all teams. They are added simply by clicking Add Team and given a name. So as you can imagine, or as you can gather here, a team is named after a company. These are the companies of our subcontractors. These are the company name of that architectural firm. I have a little pro tip right here for you. I like to create a team called All Users. Just like that. And the reason I create this team and place every member of the project on it is because I'm able to communicate globally with the entire project team simply by selecting that All Users team instead of each individual subcontractor, trade, contributor, however we want to call them. Great. I see myself on the project because I created it. That's very nice. I see Carl, the hub owner. He owns the BIM Track hub, so he gets placed on every project. It's an added benefit of being the hub owner. But it's time for us to take those users that I imported into the hub and bring them onto this project. And I can do this by clicking Add User. I can head down the list right here. Let's go and find, here's my architect. Great. I'm going to put him on the All Users team and the architectural team. And I'm going to define his role. And now I see 3 different options here. I've got an admin, an editor, and a reader. My architect, who is from outside the BIM Track company, should be brought in as an editor. This is the role most commonly given to contributing users. It allows them to push information into BIM Track, but not extract it. Now, if I'm very curious about exactly what an editor can do versus a reader, I can click on this little question mark right here, which is going to take us to the Help Center. I have tutorial videos, feature overviews, getting started documentation right here. I've got this integrated chat where I can fire up a new conversation and I can ask someone from the team, what are the differences in roles? If I just typed in roles right here, my first option takes me to the project roles. So I'll quickly just show you guys this. I will be sending over this page as well. So for us new users out there who are kind of curious about who can do what, right there. Nice little break in the action. Guys, if you have any questions, I can see some people typing out here questions. Like I said, JC and Asiat are on the line. More than happy and capable of answering your questions, guys. I'll read some of them out after. So the chat portion of the Zoom meeting, head over there, ask your questions. Back on the teams and users page. We know that we want all of our contributing users to be project editors. I don't want to go through that list and select each individual user one at a time. And I understand that. So our next pro tip here today is if we head back into the hub settings, if we head down here and find all of those users. So here's my, there's the client, there's my mechanical user. If I jump to the second page here, oops, I'm gonna back up to the top. There's my fire and plumbing guy and my structural engineer. Did that, just make sure I kept them selected. It did, perfect. With those 4 users selected, I could do the rest of the team up here too. There's my other mechanical and fire guy, perfect. And the other architect, great. With those users selected, I again click on the little gear icon and I want to batch assign those users to my project. So we called it Car Dealership Customer Success Team 2. I said I want to bring them all in as editors and they are being added. So we add them, done. Much, much quicker than, oops, there it is, adding each of those users individually. And when we pop back onto the teams and users page, there's all of my contributing subcontractors, trade partners who are ready to be placed on the all users team and their appropriate team. So that's my fire and plumbing guy. So he goes there, like that, perfect. Here's me right there. So I got to put myself on all users, architectural, BIM Track team. I am the only user on the BIM Track team, and I'm also placing myself on every single team that I created. So often we see the teams being utilized on a project, and that's great. And we see our project admins who have set this up, put everybody on their appropriate team, great, put themselves on their team, no problem, but have not put themselves on every single team. Now, it's not the end of the world, but it is highly recommended. And that's because we use these teams to control confidentiality of the issues. In my example, the architectural team creates an issue between them and the fire protection team. If they did not include, in my case, maybe the BIM Track team, I would not see the issue. By placing myself on every single team, I see every single issue that gets created and published to my project. This is exactly the type of overall all-seeing eye control that we want. So we do just that. Great. I would finish this process here, guys. I don't want you watching me click through everybody on the project, assigning them to their appropriate team. That has to be done on a user-by-user basis, as you can imagine. But we did a few of them there today, so perfect. The users are now on the project, on the appropriate team. We have one thing to do right here on the statuses attribute before we're almost ready to get this project officially launched. The first modification I'm going to recommend here, a little pro tip to the workflow, is in that confidentiality column, I no longer want all of my users to be able to close an issue. I am going to, look at that, see all of the teams on the project, and I'm going to restrict the BIM Track team to being the only team that can close an issue. Perfect. That being said, now when I create an issue, by default, that's what this default option is here when you see set as default. When I create a brand new issue, by default, it is set to open. Great. I'll assign it to an individual. They'll fix it. Then what will they do? They have no closed status. I took that away from them. I need to provide them with a value that says something like ready for review or fixed. Whatever the case is, again, nomenclature is at your discretion. There we go. Now they have the ability to tell me that they've fixed an issue. So you may be asking yourself, what's the difference between open and in progress? Well, I'm going to first do this. I've been recommending this lately, and I like to switch or rename the open attribute to new. I have a new issue that I have assigned to an individual. Once that individual receives it and starts to work on it, they switch it to in progress. I now have the ability, and that user that I've assigned the issue to has the ability to see what is a new issue versus something that they are working on, i.e. in progress. This allows us to see the workload. Are more issues being assigned to one specific individual from a specific trade or from a specific team versus their coworker? I can see that number. I can visually see it. I'll show us where in a moment. But once I have this workflow in place, I am able to see what's essentially unread. So what's, you've got a message in your inbox, you haven't seen it yet, versus the emails you have read, same mentality. I have new issues. I have an in-progress issue, which then gets switched to ready for review, which then allows me to switch that issue to closed. This is a very intelligent workflow when it comes to how we label the status of our issues. So I can imagine that this sometimes generates questions. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate about putting them into the chat. We're going to do some live Q&A in a little bit. We're ready to keep moving. So we've finished defining the attributes of our project. We've got a very intelligent workflow involved here with the status, but we have to go up here and talk about the general settings. When we create an issue, by default, it's due in 4 days. Perfect. We could line that up with, maybe the medium priority level, if that's how we're looking at things. Maybe if we put this to 7 days, we feel a little bit more comfortable. Because when I create an issue and I give it 7 days, if I create it on a Monday, it's due the Monday after. If I create it on a Wednesday, it's due the Wednesday after. If I set it to 4 days, if I create an issue on a Wednesday, it will be due on that Saturday. It does not take weekends into consideration because we know that sometimes you guys don't take weekends into consideration. And if a project has a very aggressive schedule, we may find ourselves working weekends. So if we leave on Friday, show up on Monday, that issue is due on the Saturday, unlucky for us, it becomes an overdue issue. I like that 7-day due date for that reason. Next is the default issue color attribute. I really like having my issues color coded by their severity. As soon as I see a red issue, I know it needs to be fixed. And if I see something blue or green, okay, I can come back to that in a little bit. I'm gonna leave it as a new issue right now. I'll get it in progress later. I'd like to finish some of my critical issues. We do often get asked about having the issues color coded by status. So if you see a black issue, it's closed. You don't have to worry about it. Great. If it's red, it means it's fixed. Don't touch it. I fixed it. It's done. Stop. Don't worry about it. The reason I do not recommend using the status here in the color attribute is because I like to use filters on our issues list. This allows us to completely remove closed issues from our issue list. We don't want to see them. It's closed. Take it away from me. Get it right out of my BIM track. It's still in the project. It's still pushing to metrics and reports, but we don't see it. I see red, critical. I have to get that fixed. That's that. And then finally, the last option here in the general settings are the mandatory attributes. This is a very important aspect of the project setup. This is maybe my favorite pro tip of the day. Issues get created. We can force specific attributes onto those issues before we are able to publish them to BIM Track. This is so important because we have to start thinking about our project metrics. Metrics is where we extract that information, the metadata assigned to these issues. If I know I absolutely want to be seeing the due date, the type, the zone, the priority of those issues, I make them mandatory. Let's do status and priority instead of zone. So right now, when an issue gets pushed into BIM Track, it must contain this metadata because that's the data that I absolutely want to see in my metrics. It is possible right now at this point in time with my mandatory attributes that an issue is pushed into BIM Track without the zone defined, without any disciplines associated. That's all right. We just won't be able to rely on those metrics. They can sometimes be inconclusive. But I can always guarantee on the status, type, and priority being 100% accurate within my metrics. So start thinking about what it is at touch points and milestones and in our reports that we absolutely want to be extracting and make those mandatory. All right, moving on. Categories. Categories is sometimes overlooked in the project settings, and that's solely because not all of our users or all of our workflows depend on BIM Track's web viewer. And I can assure you guys that as time goes on, we'll want to explore the viewer more and more. It is an incredibly powerful tool, but in the categories we see here, we have the ability of overriding things like the color, of my beams, maybe the transparency of slabs. Maybe I'm not interested in seeing roofs at all in this project, so I can turn them off. And when we load models into the viewer, every single beam is going to have this blue color. Every single column is going to be this dark red. Every single slab is going to be transparent. We're not going to be able to see roofs at all. So this is a global control as to how we see models in BIM Track's viewer. It's as simple as that. So guys, we did it. We've configured this project's settings. Hit the gear icon right here. Let's create a template. So the next project we do, this will be the webinar template. There we go. The next project we do, our general settings contain this information. Our attributes are set exactly as they're set right now. We just have to go back there and make changes to things like the zones, perhaps, and maybe we don't want a cost attribute in our next project. Perfect. We head to teams and users. All of our teams are already there, as you saw when I created this project today. I just added the all users, but the next time we create a project, every team is already going to be there. We just need to go through that process of batch assigning users to the project from the hub settings. So guys, I just want to kind of cover a few things, reiterate some of our pro tips today for some of our experienced users, and for the new people out there, these are the little tips that really help us get set up quicker. When we are inviting a large number of people to the hub, import them. Once they've been imported, like you saw, it's very easy, copy paste right there. Select them and then batch assign them. This makes that, click, 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 click process obsolete. Projects page, when setting up this project, this status workflow of calling issues new, having them switch to in progress allows us to see a new type of metric. What's sitting and waiting to be worked on versus what's actually being fixed right now. Make your mandatory attributes, specify the ones that you absolutely want to be extracting from your metrics. On the teams and users page, create an all users team, because when you create an issue, we can do that quickly here on the issues page, and I say fill out all of those mandatory attributes. When it comes time to notifying individuals, instead of selecting the architectural team, fire protection, structural, so on and so forth, anybody that was put onto the all users team gets notified of that issue. And again, as I said, as I stressed before, put yourself on every single team. It's incredibly important. That way, nothing flies under the radar. Issues that are created by other individuals on the project will still be seen by you. This is okay to allow users to create issues and restrict confidentiality to themselves specifically. If the mechanical team were creating issues, didn't want to be, cluttering up the architectural and fire protection teams' BIM track list, they can restrict confidentiality to just the mechanical team. Only those users will see it. They can resolve issues internally. It becomes an internal communication and issue tracking device. Nothing wrong with that, but you will still be able to see those issues as well. So let me just quickly check out some of the chat stuff here and see where some of our questions are coming from. So we're going into the Q&A part of things, guys. If you have any questions, please throw them into the chat. I know JC and Asiat are in the process of answering that. I can see them all up here. Okay, so we're going to talk about zones a little bit. We'll go back into the project settings and zones. So in my specific example here, and this may be something similar in your project, let's take the showroom floor for an example. That is a area, or in my case, it's a zone within my project, but that showroom floor may be on multiple levels of this very fancy car dealership. So it may be a split level showroom floor. There may be 2 levels of showroom floor, you know, those very, very fancy ones. So when I create an issue, it may be showroom floor zone of level 2. So it can be up on the 2nd floor of my showroom area. The zones are to give us large, you know, maybe like a big picture overview of the project. So I've got site and parking in my zones. My parking lot might be massive, that area, but I want to know that there are, you know, financial issues within that parking lot area. I want to know that on my roof, again, there could be multiple levels of up in the roof area. It's more of a global type of attribute. If we don't have access to those custom attributes, we could name our zones after the levels that we see in our authoring environments or within the project itself. So a zone can be a level, a zone can be an area. We kind of have to decide how we would like to kind of record that information into our metrics. Regardless of whether we apply the zone attribute to an issue or not, it's still being geolocated within the project itself. So we don't have to worry about, oh, if I didn't put it on the showroom floor, it's not going to show up in Revit, you know, and I won't be able to see it on the showroom floor in Navisworks. That's not how the attributes function. This is metadata, which is used for reporting metrics and filtering. All right, let me just jump over here, get some questions. Okay, email team members if possible for real. Did somebody get to, I see a question from Luke right here. I seem to recall one could email team members. Is that possible for real? Yes. So if I understand the question correctly, I don't have a lot of, let's actually go back into an existing project, guys, and we'll do this on an issue. So the notification options are very intelligent. So if I take a look at this issue right here, created in BIM Track's web viewer, right now there is nobody being notified. It's assigned to one of my architectural users, but no one's been notified about it. So only this one individual is aware that this issue is in the project. Right now, I could say, you know what? I'd like to notify the entire architectural team. So Keanu here and all of his coworkers would get notified. And if I take a look at the issue, okay, it looks to be something structural related. So I could notify the entire structural team. Or if I scroll down, I see each individual user. So I'm going to notify Kevin from the structural team, not the entire team. So you have the ability of notifying teams or individuals. So we'll save that. And if we head back up here in the comment section, I'd like to guys give you a little extra pro tip here today. In the comment section of this issue, I have the ability of using the @ symbol to either tag a team completely, so I can say, you know, I want an update, please, from the architectural team. I can post that. Once they get back to me, maybe they say, you know, we've got a question for, you know, Kevin from the structural team. I could just tag Kevin right there. And those notifications, when I tag somebody with the @ symbol, can not be turned off in the notification settings of our profile page. These are called force notifications. If you want somebody to get notified, use that method and they're getting that, that information. There's quite a lot of chat going on here, guys. I'm just gonna kind of quickly go through it here. I see some question here from Jesse about what's viewer V2. We are in the process of redesigning, revamping the viewer. So in a little while, maybe I'll have another webinar just like this about what we can expect to see in the new viewer. You're just going to be a little smoother, a little faster, a little smarter. Yeah. Oh, okay. I see JC had answered that. Report templates are project specific only. I see Mitchell right here asking about report templates. So once a project is set up, we can start creating templates. We refer to them either as quick filters. Here on the issues page, we call them templates on the report page. These templates and quick filters do not get transferred from one project to the next. And that's because the templates themselves can contain information about specific individuals. So I can create a template with the assigned to field filled out, and therefore I cannot transfer those reports from one project to the next with the template itself. This is a great time to mention BIM Track's ideas page, which I'm hoping you're all familiar with. If not, the ideas portal is where our users can come and suggest an idea. They can add it right there, and they can vote on existing ideas that other users have published. This is a great place where we can kind of see where you guys want us to steer the ship, things you guys are looking for. So we can quickly just search here for templates. There we go, and see all of the ideas related. I'm gonna have to keep moving quickly, guys. There was some other stuff I just wanted to mention here. I wanted to just kind of head through some frequently asked questions we get often, and maybe answer some other questions you guys didn't even know you had yet. So we get asked often, what happens when a paid subscription expires? And the only thing that really goes on is that plan becomes a free plan. You're never going to lose any data. You're never going to lose issues or information. The projects are still going to stay there. If you subscribe or you reinstitute your account later, all of your issues are going to be there the same way waiting for you. Again, what happens when a project is completed? What should you be doing? Best practice, in our opinion right now, until the archive project operation is ready, so what I recommend doing is selecting all of these issues on the project and exporting them to a BCF file. This is going to push all of that metadata, all of the images into a BCF file format. It's very small, very compressed, and we can save that information wherever we'd like. It's a very nice way. It's a safe way of keeping this information saved locally. Share it with, you know, other districts if need be, and say, look, here's our completed projects. Often we're asked about deleting attribute values. So if I head into my project settings, you'll notice that some of my values, let's see if I can find an example here. You'll notice that none of these attributes are able to be deleted. But if I head to the new project we just created, some of these attributes can be deleted, the little garbage can here, and that's because they are not in use. I cannot delete an attribute value if it's being used within the project. So if I say I want to take out this comment option, but if people have used that as a type in the project, we would have to change all of those issues. There's very easy commands to do that. Change them all from from comment to, let's just say, issue. Then we would be able to remove the comment value. We are always assigning issues to individuals, and I understand that sometimes there's turnaround and turnover in companies. So we do get asked, what happens if I remove somebody from a project who's assigned to a whole bunch of issues? If you remove them, those issues become unassigned. What I would recommend doing, similar to the way we exported all of those issues, would be to say, hey, I'm removing Robert from the project. Show me all of his issues. So there's 24 of them. Select them all and then switch them to the other architectural designer, technician, drafter, modeler on the project. Great. Perfect. Now Robert has no issues assigned to him. I can go back to the teams and users right here, and I can kick Robert off of the project. And it tells you all the issues owned by this user will be unassigned. He doesn't own anything. And if he has any automated tasks created by this user, they'll be deleted. Not a problem. Robert is being removed from the project because he was not creating automated tasks. He wasn't a real go-getter, so he's gone. Sometimes we hear, what's the difference between hub roles and project roles? Great question. The hub role is what you're able to see and do in that hub, and a project role is what you're able to see and do within that project. The admin position should always be reserved from users from within your organization, and the editor role right here on a project, like I said, typically given to contributing users. The reader role likely given to someone like the client or a representative, because it's the look but don't touch role. Again, guys, if you have any questions, please don't be shy. Okay, anything else, guys? Don't be shy. Again, we're recording the session. You can throw it into the chat there. Oops, I got some. Nope. Don't be shy, guys. Throw it into the chat there. Again, I think my poll is still out there. If not, yeah, it's still running. Most of you guys, I think, have answered that. I thank you guys a lot. I see there were a lot more new people getting started. So I hope you guys had found that this was beneficial for you today. I hope you all learned something. I'm going to go over the questions in the chat as well. So if anything didn't get answered, I'm going to follow up by email. You're all going to receive the recording of this session with some additional links to some maybe videos, maybe some nifty little help articles, the access right matrix, so you can see the difference between the roles. You can kind of explore that a little bit. So guys, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to be here. We look forward to having you guys, continue working with BIM Track. We've got some great stuff in the kitchen that's going to be coming out this year. I'm looking forward to doing these webinars monthly with you guys. So keep an eye out for more invitations on very topic specific type content. So if you guys have any feedback, please feel free to share that with me as well. And I'll be in touch in the next day or so with this recording. So thank you all so much. And I wish you the best day. Have a good week, everybody.